bank robberies have long captivated the public imagination. From daring heists in broad daylight to meticulously planned operations involving incredible precision, these criminals have made headlines and left a lasting legacy of intrigue. While many bank robbers are caught, some of the most infamous have managed to elude law enforcement for years or even forever. Today, we're diving into the stories of the greatest bank robbers in history and how they managed to pull off their audacious crimes. Before we begin, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the incredible stories from the world of crime and suspense. 1. D.B. Cooper. Arguably the most legendary bank robber in history, D.B. Cooper's heist remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of all time. In 1971, a man identifying himself as Dan Cooper, later dubbed D.B. Cooper by the media, hijacked a plane flying from Portland to Seattle. After demanding $200,000 in ransom money and parachutes, Cooper released the passengers in Seattle and then leapt out of the plane mid-flight, never to be seen again. The FBI launched an extensive investigation, but Cooper's identity and fate remain unknown. Despite countless theories and efforts to crack the case, no one has ever successfully tracked him down, making this heist the ultimate example of pulling off the perfect crime. 2. The Great Train Robbery, 1963. While not technically a bank robbery, the Great Train Robbery is one of the most famous heists in history, and its impact on bank robberies is undeniable. In 1963, a gang of 15 thieves, led by mastermind Bruce Reynolds, managed to rob a Royal Mail train traveling from Glasgow to London. The thieves intercepted the train, which was carrying millions of pounds in cash, and made off with a staggering £2.6 million, equivalent to about £50 million today. The criminals meticulously planned the heist, including cutting off the train's power and overpowering the crew. The robbers used an insider to gather intelligence on the train's route, and even used fake signals to trick the crew into stopping. Despite the sophistication of the heist, the majority of the gang was eventually caught, but the legacy of the Great Train Robbery still looms large in criminal history. 3. Jesse James. Jesse James was one of the most famous outlaws of the American Old West. A Confederate guerrilla during the Civil War, James became notorious for his daring bank and train robberies in the post-war years. Operating with a band of outlaws, the James Younger Gang robbed dozens of banks, stagecoaches, and trains across the American Midwest. Jesse James was known for his lightning-fast heists, often executing them in broad daylight and escaping without leaving much trace. His criminal activities became the stuff of legend, with numerous accounts of him robbing banks in Missouri, Kansas, and North Carolina. Despite being a notorious criminal, Jesse James also became a symbol of defiance against authority. His career as a bank robber ended in 1882, when he was shot in the back by a member of his own gang, but his story continues to captivate the imagination. 4. The Banco Central Burglary, 2005. One of the most audacious and well-planned heists of modern times occurred in 2005 in Brazil. A gang of thieves spent months meticulously digging a tunnel that led directly into the vault of the Banco Central in Fortaleza. Over a period of 3 months, the robbers rented a house near the bank and dug a 78-meter, 256-foot tunnel to the vault. The tunnel was reinforced with steel and even had air conditioning, making it a highly sophisticated operation. When the day of the robbery arrived, the criminals spent over 12 hours in the tunnel, stealing approximately $70 million. What's even more impressive is that the thieves executed the robbery without anyone noticing, despite the tunnel being dug under the nose of local law enforcement. While a few members of the gang were eventually caught, most of the money was never recovered, and many of the robbers disappeared without a trace. 5. The Lufthansa Heist, 1978. Made famous by the movie Goodfellas, the Lufthansa Heist is one of the most famous bank robberies in American history. In 1978, a group of mobsters, led by James Burke, aka Jimmy the Gent, pulled off a $5 million cash and $1 million worth of jewelry heist at the Lufthansa cargo terminal at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. The heist was meticulously planned, with inside help from an employee at the terminal who provided crucial details about the vaults. The robbers used sophisticated equipment to break into the vault and spent several hours unloading the cash and jewelry. However, things took a dark turn after the heist. Many of the individuals involved in the robbery, including those who knew too much, ended up dead, as the mafia is notorious for eliminating loose ends. Despite the spectacular heist, much of the loot was never recovered, and the case remains an unsolved mystery. 6. The Banco de la República heist, 1994. This infamous heist took place in Colombia, where a group of armed robbers attempted to steal a vast sum of money from the Banco de la República in Bogotá. What made this robbery stand out was not just the sheer audacity, but the length of time it took for the criminals to pull it off. The robbers spent 2 months preparing, using detailed intelligence and employing an army of inside accomplices to aid their operation. On the day of the heist, the criminals managed to infiltrate the bank's vaults, making off with approximately $33 million in cash. To further complicate the case, it was suspected that members of the Colombian police were involved, making it one of the most complex and baffling heists in history. Despite their efforts, some of the thieves were eventually caught, but the majority of the money was never recovered. 7. The Antwerp Diamond Heist, 2003. In 2003, a group of thieves pulled off what is still considered one of the greatest heists in history, the Antwerp Diamond Heist. The criminals, led by Leonardo Notarbartolo, meticulously planned the theft of diamonds, gold, and other precious jewels from the Antwerp Diamond Center in Belgium, one of the largest diamond exchanges in the world. The robbers had access to the building's vault, which was thought to be impenetrable, and they bypassed a series of security measures, including alarms, video surveillance, and even a sophisticated locking mechanism. Over the course of the heist, the thieves made off with diamonds valued at over $100 million. Notarbartolo, who was eventually caught, was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but most of the diamonds have never been recovered, and the rest of the criminals were never apprehended. 8. The Pink Panther Gang. The Pink Panther Gang is a name given to a group of international thieves who have executed some of the most daring and elaborate jewelry heists in history. Operating across Europe, the gang is believed to have stolen over $500 million worth of jewels. The gang's members are known for their ability to blend in with high society, using disguises and charm to infiltrate high-end jewelry stores. Their most famous heists include stealing from luxury retailers in Paris, London, and Dubai. What makes the Pink Panther Gang so notorious is not just the scale of their robberies, but the fact that they've pulled off heists that were near impossible to track. Despite being one of the most wanted criminal organizations in the world, the Pink Panther Gang continues to operate in the shadows, eluding capture. 9. The Great Escape Robbery, 1952. The Great Escape Robbery occurred in the UK when a gang of criminals managed to pull off one of the most daring heists in British history. The gang members, led by a man named Thomas Lyman, infiltrated a bank in London and managed to escape with over £2 million, equivalent to £40 million today. What made this robbery so remarkable was the audacity of the criminals, who managed to evade capture for over 10 years. The gang used a series of tunnels, false identities, and clever misdirection to escape from the law, and they managed to live in hiding for many years. Some members of the gang were eventually caught, but the majority of the money was never recovered. The Bank of England Gold Robbery, 1855. The Bank of England Gold Robbery is a historic heist that remains a legend in the world of crime. In 1855, a group of thieves managed to steal nearly £12 million worth of gold from the Bank of England's vaults. The heist was executed with such precision and planning that the thieves avoided detection for several years. They tunneled into the vault and made off with the gold, leaving behind only a few traces of their existence. While many members of the gang were eventually caught, the bulk of the gold was never recovered, and the heist has gone down in history as one of the most successful and mysterious robberies of all time. These notorious bank robbers and their daring heists remain etched in history as some of the most audacious and expertly executed crimes of all time. Whether they were outsmarting the authorities or using sheer brute force, each one of these criminals managed to pull off heists that stunned the world. While some were caught and some got away, the legacy of their heists continues to fascinate us. From the mysterious D.B. Cooper to the deadly Great Train Robbery, these criminals set a standard for what it means to pull off the perfect bank robbery. Let us know in the comments which bank robbery you think was the greatest of all time, and don't forget to like and share this video with your friends.